15 minutes and 55 seconds, that's how long it takes to fell a 200-year-old tree. Do you think it's wrong to destroy such an old tree? Unfortunately, this will happen more frequently in the future, as the Brazilian government recently allowed logging. A few weeks ago, Brazil announced that it would allow selective logging in the Amazon rainforest, which means that many miles of this unique ecosystem are at risk. Nevertheless, forest concessions are already being established, and logging companies are receiving the rights to use the resources and will soon begin implementation. Currently, there are 22 such logging areas in the Amazon, covering more than 13,000 square kilometers, but they plan to expand the area to 308,000 square kilometers, equivalent to the size of Italy. There was even the idea that the forest must be controlled by logging it, and this is truly alarming because 60% of the Amazon rainforest is located in Brazil. In short, Brazil wants to cut down the forest to save it. But how does that work? That's really interesting, but first, I'll drink my coffee, and then we'll continue. If you like this, don't forget to hit the like button. It all began in 2019 when the wind brought smoke to Sao Paulo. The smoke was so dense that, when it met the moist sea air, the entire sky darkened, and streetlights had to be turned on 3 hours earlier for the city to keep functioning. These images were taken around noon. The smoke was caused by the most intense fires that had engulfed the Amazon rainforest. The forests burned, ravaged by arsonists and loggers. In response, Brazilian President Jair Bolsonaro began to act. Something had to be done. Even the Air Force was deployed. AC-130 sprayed water and fire retardants over the burning jungle to stop the fires. This operation marked the beginning of a new and unprecedented military operation to fight fires in the world's largest tropical rainforest. Operation Green Brazil lasted 19 months, but then authorities had to admit that they couldn't protect the Amazon. This failure had its reasons, including a lack of professionalism and proper training for the jungle deployment, according to environmentalists. But the real issue isn't the military, it's the Amazon forests. For much of human history, they were cleared by farmers to create fields on the cleared land. But in the second half of the 20th century, everything began to change. Now, forests were also being cut down for timber, and no one cared that this was legally forbidden. It's hardly surprising when you consider that this is the largest seizure of illegal timber in Brazilian history. In March 2021, police seized 8 million cubic feet of timber on the border between the states of Amazonas and Pará. But the people involved in illegal logging are also responsible for the fires in the Amazon rainforest. It's quite simple: valuable trees are cut down and sold profitably on the market, and the remaining vegetation is then burned. Naturally, this leads to fires, but that doesn't bother the perpetrators because cleared land is much more profitable than a forest where there are no longer any valuable tree species. Even if there is no deliberate arson, selective logging results in more sunlight reaching the forest floor, drying it out and significantly increasing the risk of fire. A spark is all it takes, and the forest catches fire. Overall, deforestation is a serious problem. In this context, it seems truly frightening that the government could worsen the problem by allowing logging. The Amazon is of global importance to all of us. These tropical forests are among the most biodiverse regions on Earth and play a crucial role in the Earth's ecosystem. More than 3 million animal and plant species inhabit the Amazon, and if the forests disappear, all of these species will go extinct. Many of them are found only here. Additionally, 2.2 million indigenous people live in the Amazon forests and rely on the region's natural resources to survive. Not to mention that rainforests are among the largest carbon dioxide absorbers in the world. In short, the Amazon is vital for all of us, intact and undamaged. Yet despite everything, the forests are always under threat from various sides. In Brazil, large areas of forest have no special protection, even though they are designated as public land. This ultimately means, public land is nobody's land. Criminals frequently seize areas and clear them in the hope that the government will eventually recognize them as owners, and most of the time, that's exactly what happens. Criminals are accompanied by ranchers who destroy the forest from the inside out, by loggers, and by many other people who want to use the unused land for their own purposes. Deforestation is progressing at an alarming rate. In 2021, scientists were shocked to discover that some parts of the Amazon were so badly damaged that they are now emitting more carbon than they absorb. It is difficult to pinpoint exactly who caused these drastic changes, but it was definitely illegal. Reliable statistics on this subject are hard to find, but one study estimates that up to 94% of deforestation in the Amazon is illegal. In just one Brazilian state, Amazonas, more than 25,000 square kilometers of public land were taken over for private use, and that is still a very low estimate, as not all seized areas are registered. But even when it comes to regular logging and not land grabbing, many more trees are destroyed than necessary. Here's how it works. For every commercial tree that is removed, one that is intended for sale, 27 others with a diameter of over 10 centimeters are damaged. This includes about 40 meters of newly constructed roads and 2,000 meters of disrupted canopy. And let's not forget that the trees have to be transported, which often requires the use of tractors, leading to soil erosion, nutrients being washed away, streams and rivers suffering, and everything else as well. The destruction of the Amazon rainforest has reached such a scale that it is even visible from space. Recently, NASA released a photo of the fires taken from the ISS. There are also satellite images, and they all look quite alarming. The Amazon rainforest needs protection, and the indigenous peoples, the tribes that live in these forests, play a significant role in this. They monitor their forests and rivers, ensure their safety and the well-being of their communities. Youth and elders, men and women, all use different strategies for territorial defense, combining traditional knowledge with modern technology, camera traps, GPS, and drones. In the hands of people who know the forest well, this becomes 100 times more effective immediately. Local teams constantly monitor the situation and track the movements of intruders to stop them before another part of the forest is destroyed. But of course, the military keeps pace. The Brazilian Special Forces continue to fight for the protection of the Amazon rainforests, and these are real fighters in real combat gear with real weapons. They belong to a small unit known as the Specialized Inspection Group, GF, and they keep their faces covered. This is because brutal criminals often show up in the forests, and it is now risky for the military to reveal their identities. But they have helicopters that allow them to fly over the dense forests and quickly get from point A to point B, often the only way to get there. Well, the fighters' goal is to destroy the camps and equipment of the intruders with which they cut down trees, but that's still not enough. Imagine the Amazon rainforest, it's huge. That's over 7 million square kilometers, equivalent to the area of Mexico, Mongolia, Peru, and Egypt combined. Now imagine how federal and local authorities, with limited resources, try to monitor the land boundaries to prevent illegal activities. That's pretty difficult, considering that even special forces struggle with it. Many environmentalists admit that they don't find all these efforts particularly effective because they don't contribute much to saving the Amazon. Ultimately, the Amazon is still being destroyed, just a bit more slowly than without military control. Of course, the soldiers could protect the forest even more efficiently, but the problem lies elsewhere. There is little financial incentive to protect the Amazon, so it's not a priority, and that's mainly because no one understands its significance. Let me show you this with an example. A few years ago, scientists wanted to identify a butterfly, and for that, they had to analyze a tiny hair sample. After finding the animal and removing its hairs, they implanted it in an artificial environment to breed it. After about 3 days, the butterfly began to breathe and transformed into an animal. After that, the DNA scan was compared with the DNA code in the international database, and the database reported that the butterfly could be found in a laboratory in Austria. In reality, it is found nowhere in the world except in the Amazon rainforest, but if you close your eyes and do nothing, it will soon no longer exist there. In 2000, scientist Oliver Phillips warned the world that even the Amazon rainforest is finite. In his view, it will be destroyed by 2064. The problem isn't just the criminal groups that illegally log timber. In the last 20 years, 45,000 square kilometers of forest have been destroyed for the construction of roads, dams, and hydroelectric power plants, and the government has approved all of this. Yet despite all these threats, the Amazon is not dying yet. Moreover, many of its parts are thriving even after so many decades of human activity. Scientists say that we can still save the Amazon. But how can we save it? Perhaps through military operations or by burning it down, as Brazil is now suggesting? None of these things are necessary. As it turns out, 3 simple steps are enough to ensure the survival of the rainforest. First, we must continue to protect the existing protected areas, which cover 50% of the Amazon. Second, we must ensure that the land of the indigenous peoples is preserved and not seized. And third, we must increase public interest in these topics because only public pressure can force the government to change its approach. These 3 simple rules are effective in themselves and could save the Amazon. Although there is another simple rule: respect the forest, and it will protect you, and the world will be grateful. So that's all for now, my dear friends. You should really think about the Amazon.